Today I wanted to take some time and go over the materials I use for creating mixed media collage art.
So let's dive into all the materials from pencils to papers to paint and glue. Let's get into it.
The first thing I like to have on hand when I'm creating collage mixed media is old books. I like to tear up old book pages, thrift store books or just old books that have been given to me. I like to tear up the pages so I can start a collage with them. The other thing I like to do is tear up my old artwork or cut up my old artwork. So I reuse my old art journals by cutting up the pages and cutting up either colors or shapes that I like that I can use in new art journal pages through collage. You can also use postcards, old cards that you get, anything like that in your collage. I really like these. I haven't used them yet. They have a bit of a shine to them. I can use it for the color. I can use it for the birds. So I'm saving these to see what I can create with those. Old books I use the top of to mix my paints, because why not? It's an old book. I'm going to be using the pages within. And it's a great way to save books from a landfill and reuse them in your art. Same with magazines. I also use old magazines. I find it hard to find old magazines, so I tend to go for thrift store books. The next thing I wanted to discuss was the mediums that you use to stick the paper, the old papers or postcards onto your surface. If you are using just a piece of paper or something thin like magazine paper, old book paper, Mod Podge or any stick glue is great to stick the paper onto the canvas or onto whatever surface you're sticking it onto. So I like Mod Podge. The other items I like to use, materials I like to use, are the heavy gel mat and the molding paste. Both of these are very thick. You can see with the molding paste, it's a very thick paste. It dries a little bit muddy, so it's not as transparent if you're using glue. So if you're using molding paste on top of pieces of paper, only bits of the writing is going to show through. But molding paste is also great because it's a matte surface and you can use pencil on top of it. Heavy matte gel is a little bit more transparent. You can see how thick it is. It's nice and thick, and I like using this as well. I really like heavy matte gel for paper or thicker pieces of paper. If I'm not using glue, I will use these basically whichever one I grab. And I like the molding paste if I'm using something thicker. You know, if I was going to be sticking like a postcard, I might use the molding gel or the molding paste. The other thing I use molding paste for is if I'm sticking flower petals onto my art journal. So as an example, this is an art journal page that I did with rose petals, dried rose petals, and I use the molding paste to stick the rose petals on. This is almost, it's a really nice effect. The rose petals stayed on really well with the molding paste. The glue did not work well at all with sticking the old flower petals on. So that's why I like molding paste. Two great materials to use are gesso. I really like gesso to mix my acrylic paints with because acrylic paints have a glossy finish where the gesso has more of a matte finish. And if you're creating a mixed media piece that you want to use pencil or marker on top of, a nice matte medium, such as heavy gel matte, gesso, clear gesso or white gesso, both are really good for putting on your artwork if you know that you're going to be using a pencil, pen, marker, or any other type of art supply on top of your artwork. If I'm doing a mixed media on an old book page, I like to prep the page with some gesso first, whether it's clear gesso or white gesso, simply because it will allow the other materials that I'm using to stick really well to the paper and not to sink through to the next page. I like these palette knives. I like it to make sure the paper, sticks really well. Like when I have glue, it keeps the air bubbles out. So if I put glue on a piece of paper and then stick it to my art journal, I will always go over it with my palette knife to make sure it sticks. I like this one the best. Scissors are also great. I mean, I rip a lot of things up. I'm not really cutting a lot out unless I'm cutting a specific figure out, such as the cat figure that I showed you earlier. I don't use scissors too often. I'm usually ripping paper up to stick to my art journal. And of course, I like to use tape if I want to tape anything down. The other materials that I use for my art journal is pencils. I have my favorites here. I even use pastel pencils. So I'll have my favorite variety of pencils here that I could quickly grab. And then I have a group of colored pencils. So if I'm looking for a certain color, I will grab those. I really enjoy these sponge brushes. I don't have too many of them left. They're great for mark making too. The sponge brushes are great for mark making in addition to glue and molding paste and all the different things that you want to use. I love adding stencils to artwork. Sometimes it's nice to have stencils just to add to the page when you're starting a piece of artwork, because then you're covering that white page, that blank space, with some color or patterns that you like to begin a project with. When it comes to paint, you can use any kind of acrylic paint that you like on your mixed media collage art. I find the Liquitex Basics are a great price point for beginners. The only thing to note about these are they're a little bit transparent, so that could be a good thing or not a good thing depending on what you're wanting to do. Like I find the Liquitex Heavy Body is not as transparent. So the professional Liquitex paints are the Heavy Body is a thicker consistency than the Liquitex Basics. And these ones, if you put some paint down, it's slightly transparent, where these are not transparent. What I like to do is I like to mix my acrylic paints with a clear gesso. It creates transparency, but the clear gesso is a matte finish and allows you to use pencil over it without a problem, without it being slippery, and the pencil mark stays. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions about mixed media collage art, please leave a comment below and I will answer.